Hey, what's up, guys? Aarava here, and welcome to an instant race reaction podcast for the 2019 German Grand Prix with the usual host, myself, Aarava, Callum, and Tom. And I can't even speak because what a great Grand Prix that was. What on earth was that German Grand Prix? What was it?
I love this game.
I love this sport. This is when this sport is better than anything. Like, inject this into my veins 24/7. What on earth did we just witness at Hockenheim?
I can't. I've got goosebumps. Like that, the amount of times I got goosebumps through that whole Grand Prix. There was just something in the air, like the aura, even building up to the Grand Prix, even before Friday. It just felt like something was on the horizon, and we knew that the rain was coming for Sunday, and we did get the rain. But even the build up to the race, everything was just on point. And the action and the racing, I can't.
Class.
You can't fathom it.
I was smiling ear to ear pretty much that entire race. Like from the very start, you know, we thankfully a standing start in the wet. That was crazy enough. Verstappen bottled the start, ironically, for the man who won the Grand Prix. Then in the end. And then all the way through, this action every like 3 laps. When there's a little lull, there was more action. Someone's off, someone's spanned, someone's crashed, someone's pit, someone's done something. It was just too much, so much.
Like, oh, you want to go for a piss break? Oh, actually,
no.
Wait,
if you
let
went
me just
for
throw
a piss
this
break,
at you.
nah. If you went for a piss
give me
break,
something.
The amount, even I'd use the safety cars as to go to the toilet, but then I'd hear some Crofty shouting about something. I was like, oh my god, I've got to come back.
Yeah.
I need to run back because is Hamilton in the wall or is there Verstappen backwards? Sainz is in the wall. I all span round.
If Verstappen's going to win a race, he has to get a bad start. That's the recipe from
Yeah, apparently so. I completely forgot about that. I genuinely forgot that he had a bad start.
He can't have a boring race win where he just dominates the entire Grand Prix, it seems. Because,
he doesn't do it.
Let's go through person by person. That's the only way I think we can get through this Grand Prix. So let's start off with the race winner, Max Verstappen. The podium, if you didn't know already, wherever you've been living under a rock. Sebastian Vettel, second place from P20. And then Kvyat in third place in a Toro Rosso, which is the most wholesome podium ever, because also he just had the birth of his daughter last night as well, and then to get a podium in a Toro Rosso on his comeback into F1 this year, crazy stuff. But Verstappen, yeah, bad start, and then just didn't put much of a foot wrong, really. I mean, had a bit of a moment with the spin on the medium tyres at the time. Was asking the team why on earth he put them on mediums, and right at the end he was happy to say great job on every pit stop to the team, because it didn't matter at the end, he won the race. Win number 7. This man's building some momentum, it seems, it looks like, and just getting maturer and maturer by the season we see him, basically.
That lad is talented. He is very, very talented, and he's got a very bright future in this sport. We've said it in more recent races, but that guy's got some talent. And the fact that the race winner even had a spin does kind of bode the rest of the field had quite a mad race as well. But honestly, even on the mediums, obviously he had the spin, but he still managed to control it. Had that brilliant pit stop to get him on a fresh set of inters when he was 8 seconds ahead. When the one, I think it was either a virtual safety car or a safety car, brilliant master stroke from Red Bull to get him on that fresher set of intermediates so he could pull off before the final round of stops for the slicks. And also sneaking in to get that pit stop. Watson was all concentrating on Hamilton in the wall in his 50-second pit stop. He managed to pull off that move in the pit lane as well. Mostly, no mistakes pretty much, apart from one. And the start, absolutely incredible race from Verstappen. I've really got to give a hand to him.
Yeah, really insane race. Like, what can you say that hasn't been said? Like, literally a madness. And he made all the right calls, simple as that. And I think on the day, he deserved it the most. You could see in the first part of the race, when the race was just on inters, like when they got off the wets onto the inters, he didn't have enough pace to really get past the Mercedes. He needed the weather to start changing its mind for him to really start to get into that race, because I think if it just stayed like inters and then onto the dries, I don't think he would have got past the Mercedes. So he needed that weather to kind of start not making his mind up for it to really throw it his way. And yeah, insane. Like, so happy for him as well. And, you know, unlike Austria, there's no controversy here. This was a clean, decisive, brilliant win for Verstappen, which is great to see.
Yeah, no, I think that sums up perfectly. Like that moment when the weather started changing in mind, that's where Verstappen's sixth sense just came in. We've seen it before sometimes in wet races where he just has that sense of where to drive the car. I kind of like almost sometimes Hamilton has had in the past, but this day today was definitely a race to forget for Hamilton. We'll get to him, but very much polar opposite of what Hamilton's done in the past in the wet before. But that's what Verstappen had out there. But second place then, Sebastian Vettel, P20. Gutting qualifying. It was an embarrassment for Ferrari yesterday with Leclerc also with issues. He started P10, Vettel last place. You thought, okay, where is this going to go? And then lo and behold, Vettel makes his way through. I mean, it was amazing first few laps. On turn 1 alone, he got 4 positions, just sent it to the inside of turn 1. Love that. And he just kept through, kept his nose clean where others were faltering, where his teammate faltered. And he's pulled off what I'm sure is going to be a much needed pick-me-up for not only him, but also the team, I think, as well, after what happened yesterday as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Ferrari,
I mean,
today, strategy was on point.
Yes.
Every single time.
Surprisingly.
Like, Vettel was the first driver onto the Inters after the wets. They got that call right. He jumped up to, 12th place. And then I think he was the first one of the big boys to go into the dry tyres as well. And even with Leclerc as well, they pit Leclerc both virtual safety cars. Literally, what a difference when their strategy is on point, even when they haven't necessarily got the quickest car. It just goes to show how bad that's been as well this season. But Vettel, wow, I didn't expect it, to be honest. I know you can say you had a feeling or this, that, the other, but ultimately his last year has been very, very poor. And when you see Leclerc crash out, you're like, oh no, because really everyone, I think, hedged their bets on Leclerc.
For sure. I think so, for sure.
So,
definitely.
Madness.
And there was a big period in that race where people were tweeting me constantly saying, but Vettel, I was pointing out other people that made huge gains in that race. And at some point, they were just saying, though, but Vettel's still P7, he's still P8, whereas he's not doing anything. And then last stint, just quietly does his business, gets on the radar, does the last 2 overtakes for that second place. So it was really a bit of a slow burner for him. I think he said that himself. It was a very long race that he felt.
Turbo
just kept
issues,
going
possibly.
on and on. Maybe he doesn't know. He said there weren't actually any issues. He was just kind of getting used to it. I think it was more him struggling with the conditions. I think, to be fair, more so.
It's quite bizarre generally because he did make all his positions and he did hit this stalemate where every single restart he wasn't making up any positions. He was just kind of sat in 8th. There was a period of time where he was stuck behind Kimi, who was having a brilliant race. It was a very much a 50-50. He'd made so much progress but then didn't make any more until the end of the Grand Prix when they were pitting for slicks, and then he lit up that final set of soft tyres. But there is a certain level of irony that on the day where it's pretty much impossible to predict strategy and get strategy right, Ferrari get it completely right. And then on a normal day when it's every strategy decision is obvious even to the couch viewer like you or me, we can obviously say yes, undercut them now, you've got a good chance. They won't do it. There's just something about Ferrari that are a bit bizarre in that aspect, but that's exactly what Vettel needed. Let's hope that that's topped off his year of mistakes, and that's a good pick-me-up now for him to move forward with the rest of the season and just to bin the rest. Hopefully, it's a good way to bounce back for Ferrari. Yeah, a nice little reset because they need it. Vettel needs it, and this is the exact sort of result that he needed generally.
It's a good weekend, his home Grand Prix weekend, and then you got Hungary next, and then it's the summer break. So literally, if they can end off this first half of the season well at Hungary, have a good one, mentally go into that summer then, and have that reset then for the second half. Obviously, it's a long. Even with those results, the gap is still huge for Hamilton, the championship. The same thing with constructors, but it's just for the rest of the season, for their sake of race to race, it'd just be good for them to have that reset for sure.
Going into next year as well, I think.
Also that, because obviously all the teams are already thinking about next year's car in terms of development and stuff like that. So very good to have that in the factory for good morale and whatnot. But Kvyat then. Third place. I mean, I'm actually just so happy for the lad. Of course, we all know the story of Kvyat, was in Red Bull, then got demoted to Toro Rosso. Verstappen goes in there, does the business, so it kind of means, and so it's so harsh on him to be dropped like that back then. Then obviously got booted out of Toro Rosso, and was like a Ferrari development driver, then got called back to Toro Rosso for this year, which sounded very strange at the time. It was like, to be fair, he's an experienced driver. He seems like he's willing to do the job, and he's actually raring to go again to prove himself again in F1, and he's still quite young actually, or relative to a lot of other people in that paddock. And then he goes and he's had a solid season so far, and then goes and gets a podium in a Toro Rosso and gets back on the podium and shows he's not lost some of that speed he did show many times sometimes at Red Bull. So just so happy for
really
him.
good podium. I think good timing as well. I think Brundle alluded to it on commentary saying, with silly season around the corner, he's just knocked on the door because everyone was saying, there was one point in the race where Albon and Gasly were like going at it, and it was like, oh, look at that, it could be the future Red Bull driver taking the former Red Bull driver.
In that
but
same
Gasly's
race.
like, hold up, player, hold up, I got something for you. I got something lined up. Watch this, and just put it on the podium, just to remind everybody that I'm still here, I'm still out here.
It was impressive.
Really,
very
really
impressive.
And also
like
the timing of it with his daughter as well.
I know it was. There was something so beautiful about that, and as well, like I think generally as Formula One fans, we love to see anyone outside of the top 3 teams get on the podium, and it's very rare to see these days. I mean, last year we only had Perez through the whole of the season of a driver and a team outside of the top 3 to finish on the podium. So that was brilliant to see, and obviously we nearly had 2 of them with Stroll right hot on his heels as well. Obviously after he was overtaken by Kvyat, but with master-stroke strategy from both Toro Rosso and Racing Point to get them right at the sharp end.
Well, that's a good segue to
after such a, that was probably the call of the race.
Yeah,
and I realised it when it was the first round of stops. So Stroll had pitted right at the end of the safety car. And then everyone came in the lap after, but not everyone. Like, it was like half the field. And I looked at the time and I was like, hold on a minute. Stroll's ahead of Verstappen. Yeah. And I was like, he's in the net race leading. And obviously then everyone realised. Yeah. I was like, that was one of the best strategy calls I think I've seen in ages.
Genius stuff. Racing Point engineers, like on the pit wall, they must have been absolutely loving it. They're like, hold on here, lads. We've actually made the biggest call ever. Like, we're going to lead a race. Obviously, they probably never thought they were going to hold on to that, but it's a good chance to get a podium, and might have almost got it maybe if something went different. But still, P4 for them is mega because they've had a really tough few races now. And like Brundle said in the commentary box, they're just kind of hoping that he can just get a buttload of points there for the team, and he's done that. P4, Perez was out of the GP, so there was his only hope. And masterstroke call. I mean, the fact that he led the Grand Prix for a quarter of a lap alone was just crazy to even say. Crazy.
Everyone's just like, it was Stroll's leading. We're like, who? How? Who?
How's he strolled into that one?
Honestly. And I think this race also goes to show, just segueing onto Sainz, that you can't give up.
Never say never.
Sainz was backwards at the final corner at lap 20 or something like that.
Yeah, and rejoining P15. He reversed.
How he was up in third, or I don't get how
reversed onto the track.
I was rooting for that podium because McLaren deserved that as well. They really deserved that this year, and I was kind of hoping Vettel would get second and Sainz got third. That's what I really wanted, just because of McLaren. Obviously, knowing in hindsight the Kvyat situation, I'm quite happy it happened as it did. But still, I wanted to see McLaren back up there. I thought that was it would have been really good for them after all these really bad years to see that. But Sainz as well, fantastic race, and I think a weekend where McLaren didn't really have the car, really struggled, in qualifying.
Yeah,
I think
they were
Sainz
struggling
in qualifying because he almost got knocked out in Q1, and I think he just put out a mad lap in Q2 to get into Q3. But McLaren again maximising the points even when they haven't got a good car, they're always there as well. They're always there.
Yeah,
as long as they don't break down.
I mean, Sainz, that was a very mature drive, even after that spin, just to keep his head down, keep going. Especially then, for the team's sake, Norris DNFing with a mechanical issue on the car, hydraulic, it would seem like, with gear sync issues. So for him to get P5, again, just all these positions are just so much more impressive considering what that entire race was. Like, you take into account that any one of these guys could have made the same mistake as Leclerc, as Bottas, as Hamilton. And they didn't. And they
easily.
It through. It's just so much more impressive.
You've got to give props to the teams as well. So, for example, with Sainz, he didn't pit for a set of slicks when everyone did initially. So he stayed on his intermediate tyres, and that's how he got himself back to the sharp end. Because as it proved, those slick tyres were not suitable for the track. I think it was Magnussen who went on the slick tyres initially, and they were faster for 2, 3, 4 laps, but it was too risky. You saw Leclerc, you saw Hamilton go off in the exact same spot, and multiple other drivers as well at that final corner. The slicks were too risky because I think there was something weird about that third sector that just wasn't drying up compared to the second sector, for example. And to keep switched on and be like, no, I'm not going to buckle. We're going to stay on the intermediates. To say as well, at the start of the race, when we saw multiple drivers and teams take a risk by staying on the wets when people pitted for inters, at that point, sometimes I feel like teams might just give up on making some sort of rash move like what Stroll did. It's good. It's props to the teams for maintaining with their ideas and going, you know what, we're going to try and make this work. And as proven with science, staying on the Inters did work.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to go brave, and and it pays off. And I think Brundle summed it up, and we've said this before many times as well. Brundle said it brilliantly after the race on Sky. It was basically, these teams, because it was raining and they didn't do any running in practice or quali with that. Basically, everything they learned being chucked out the window. They had no data and everything. And it just adds to everything, because every team then is like a headless chicken, just kind of going about your wits of, the engineer on the spot doing the calculation of, we do this, maybe the pace might be that, or just gut feeling of, you know what, it's not raining that much, let's just stick it on slicks, stick a hand out of the pit wall, just go with the old-fashioned, let's just try this and hope for the best. And it just pays off for a brilliant race. Albon, P6.
That's what they said to Verstappen as well. Like, literally at one point with Verstappen, they were like, literally, forget the radar, Max, just if it feels dry or wet, just do what you feel like. Literally, the engineer was telling him, like, forget it. Yeah. Like, there's no point.
Yeah.
It's that kind of race.
Albon P6, the other Toro Rosso, big double
Is there an
points
asterisk
for Toro
on that,
Rosso.
though? There's an asterisk on that one because of the Gasly crash, I think.
Perhaps,
right at the end, yeah.
Yeah, perhaps.
Which I personally think he was to blame for. Personally.
Yeah, he was. Albon was to blame for that little incident. I mean, it was a shame because Albon also produced a very, very mature drive.
He looked really good in that race.
I mean,
really
those Toro Rossos lit up. Like, they were flying at one point.
Kvyat stole the fastest lap for a good 3-4 laps from Verstappen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they were flying out there. And Albon, actually, the overtakes were so convincing that he was making, especially just before that incident when he overtook Gasly and squeezed him out properly. That was just like, Gasly, come on, man. It can't get any worse for you right now. This has been the worst advertisement for you staying in that Red Bull post-Hungary ever. So we'll see about that. But it's even if he does get penalised, still kudos. Great drive from the rookie in P6 and those kind of conditions. Then double points playing positions for Alfa Romeo Racing. Raikkonen P7, Giovinazzi P8. Very happy. Kimi showing his rallying skills at one point on that drag strip, because where Leclerc and Hamilton got caught out, seemingly Kimi, the only one switched on by going opposite lock 5 times basically to keep jigging the car straight and getting that back in the right direction. So after a bit of a wobbly few moments for Kimi, brought it home in P7, and Gio had a bit of a quiet race. It didn't seem actually that much apart from when he caught back up to his teammate. But
the Alphas are under investigation right now.
For what?
The data, both cars, the start data on the grid, I believe, was checked and something wasn't quite right. So it's one of them ones where if they deem it to be wrong, I'm not really sure what they mean by start data, but I'm guessing if it's wrong, it could be something like a double disqualification, something like that.
Okay, that's strange.
More asterisks.
Regardless of it, like, you've got to. I mean, Kimi, he was in third at one point. I think Kimi was running third at the start of the race. Giovinazzi was still holding it in there, producing a very mature drive, and as shown by pretty much almost half the field, it's easy to go off and it's easy to crash. So fair play to both of them.
He didn't,
amazing.
Kimi definitely rolled back the years at the very start in third place.
Oh, definitely.
That was very, very cool. It's like,
so strange.
Does someone want to remind him that he's not in the Ferrari anymore? Like, what's he doing here? Like, absolutely awesome. And then in the end, out of everything, the two Haas cars got 9th and 10th. After everything we've talked about pre-Germany and what happened in the race, because it wasn't even a very great race for these two cars. They were the definition of, if you stay on the track long enough, you'll get points. Because they did nothing this race and got P9 and 10. They hit each other again and they got P9 and 10.
Bizarre, because at the start of the race they did the wrong strategy call with Magnussen. It was like they were doing the same strategy calls as everyone else, but it felt like they weren't jumping up the field. I know Grosjean lost quite a few positions in the pit lane with that incident with Leclerc, which was quite strange in the fact that you never see a fine in the middle of the race. I don't think we've ever seen that before, where they've issued a fine as a penalty versus... And I do agree with this in the sense that Leclerc, yes, he does deserve a penalty because it's extremely unsafe, especially in those conditions, but you don't want to hamper Leclerc's race. But then Crofty was kind of on the harp that, that means teams will happily do it. I'm like, no. I don't think Ferrari will be wanting to just pay 100 grand every race for a quicker pit stop. I'm not quite sure on that one. I think it is still quite the deterrent, but quite bizarre that you see a fine in the middle of the race. And I'm glad it didn't affect Leclerc's race at the time. Obviously now it doesn't really matter because he's binned it.
Obviously, So that was something. Then you had finally we get to Lewis Hamilton, P11.
How did he finish the race? First of all, how?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either how he had the willpower, because we heard that obviously he was actually ill going into this Grand Prix, and there were moments on Saturday where they thought maybe he might need to actually sit this race out, sub in Ocon, and lo and behold, he still did a mega job in qualifying to get that pole. It seems like, all the rest in the world maybe just, wasn't, they got to that point in the race where you just maybe switched off that little few tenths, because he started making these mistakes, and they're mistakes that you just don't see Hamilton making. And it just kind of fell away completely from him. Obviously, the first big one was that drag strip mistake, which was kind of funny in a way, because you saw on board as he went towards it, you could still see Leclerc's car parked up in the same spot.
He very nearly hit Leclerc's car.
Part of me thinks he might have been like, because like drivers look on the screens and stuff when things happen. Yeah. He might have just glanced quickly over to him just to see. And then by doing that, it might have just been enough to
drew him over to him. Yeah, he wanted a better look, that was why. As a Hamilton fan, that was one of the worst performances I've seen from Hamilton in a very, very long time. And there's a certain level of irony, again, that he has another issue with the pit lane entry. This time, trying to dive into the pit lane too late.
Compared to last year,
it was a complete opposite to what he did last year. And last year he didn't get penalised. This year, obviously, it was a slam dunk. But there was just something about Hamilton this weekend, maybe with the illness and everything. But that's not the Lewis Hamilton that we know when it comes to driving in the wet conditions. I mean, and this is the thing that I think at the moment Mercedes are a little bit, they're brilliant at planning ahead, and they're usually so switched on. But the moment they're not switched on, it goes down like a sinking ship. That was a 50-second pit stop that Hamilton had. 50 seconds, bearing in mind. I was very pissed off at that point.
It was the first time I've seen Mercedes fully flustered, mechanics running about,
usually that's a Red Bull thing.
Yeah, literally that one guy on the camera that was on there for most of the shot, looking left and right, not knowing what to do, just trying to even keep his bloody overalls.
Yeah. Because obviously they wanted to put slicks on, but then they realised, oh no, Inters are much better, and we need to put a front wing on it, and this, that, and the other. One of the most bizarre things going. I'm very surprised that Hamilton could carry on from that crash.
He was lucky.
As was all of Leclerc.
Well, he just about. I think with the Leclerc, the angle was just sharper that he just couldn't get himself wedged out. And then even after that, the spinny down the turn one, Hamilton very, very lucky to not even actually put that in the barrier like Bottas did. The spin,
carbon copy. That was so bizarre.
He got very close to the wall. Yeah, but it was very odd. Both drivers made the same driver error into turn one.
A little bit offline. Dipped the left rear in the wet stuff.
Yeah,
on the curb.
I think overall, that's what I'm saying. Hamilton had a unlucky race, but also very lucky. How the hell did that car not? I don't know how he made it to the finish. I really don't. Any other day, Hamilton, any other car would have lost their front left if Hamilton's crash. That kind of thing. Amazing. The Mercedes is sturdy. We said the Red Bull at Silverstone was quite sturdy after that Vettel crash. That Mercedes is pretty strong as well. To be honest, that suspension arm.
Yeah, for
pretty
sure.
Strong.
Yeah, well, behind Hamilton was the two Williams cars. Not much to talk about them, to be fair.
How? Just literally the one opportunity to pick up points.
And they still don't.
Lewis Hamilton, both Mercedes didn't finish. A Ferrari didn't finish. A McLaren, a Renault didn't finish. How the hell did they not pick up on these? I don't.
The car's that slow. The car is just that slow that
Hamilton I don't understand
can still
it.
finish ahead of them. So
yeah, I don't understand it.
So unfortunately, there's actually not much to actually really say about them. And we move swiftly to Gasly then, P14. Minus the crash, because as we said, Albon moved right with him as he moved right, so that will probably be more on Albon. But I mean, before that, it wasn't an exactly amazing race anyway for Gasly. It was okay, I guess, but
it wasn't.
So many mistakes.
Just one sec. Have anyone got the results on screen? Because obviously my internet was down. What are the positions of the Williams?
12th and 13th.
So potentially with both Alphas getting disqualified and Albon's possible penalty, maybe.
But
I don't think Albon would get more than 10 seconds.
I think Alpha getting 2 disqualifications seems like a really long shot. I haven't heard of a data thing like that.
Well, I just read it again. Something else along the line. It's basically something along the lines of driver assistance at the start of the race. So basically, something to do with being unaided or aided in the way they're driving. Right. So they had some kind of basically assist on, if that makes sense, to kind of shorten it down.
We'll have to see about that. I would be very shocked because I can't actually remember any time I've heard about some data breach or data issue at the very start of the Grand Prix affecting anything.
We will see. But is it Kubica who would score the point?
Maybe.
The irony in that as well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, it would be to be fair, I wouldn't be that oh, that's great for them because like Cal said, in that race, how can you? How have you not managed to get something out of that? Like, yeah,
It's just that bad. That
Yeah.
car's that bad.
But if we speak about Gasly for a second,
yeah, go on, yeah.
he is in trouble. Like he's in like that was a you know what the problem is? Verstappen won. Like that's
yeah,
why
Verstappen's
it makes it
that's
so much
The
worse.
overwhelming issue. You have like Verstappen winning, and then like the team radio comes on, and Christian Horner personally saying what an amazing drive, and then you look over, like, oh, what's Christian saying about? Gasly's down.
Yeah, like
14.
there was just nothing there to give any reason to Red Bull why they should keep him. Not during that race at all. There was nothing. Just in the sense that his racecraft was off. Every single restart he was losing positions. He was being overtaken by the sister team Toro Rosso. He wasn't overtaking like the Ferrari of Vettel. Like he was just not going forwards. And I don't know. He's had his chance now, and he bins it in FP2. And then Helmut Marko is very happy to announce to, I think it was Nico Rosberg on his channel, that that crash just cost $500,000 or something stupid like that. Like they're happy just to let numbers and things bring Gasly down. I would not be surprised if he's out of that seat soon, especially when you've got the likes of Kvyat and Albon doing so well.
A part of me is not impressed with Gasly's performance, but at the same time, I don't want to see him go mid-season, because it's becoming a bit of a thing now, this whole Red Bull chopping block. And I think it's going to do more harm than good to a lot of people's careers, just because Verstappen's so good, not because they're particularly bad. And I think they've got to be careful with that. I think Ricciardo done the right thing to quickly jump out of that place, because, it's one of them things where Verstappen, when he's in this form, he's a world-class driver, you can't deny it. And ultimately, it's going to be hard to beat a world-class driver. It's as simple as that. And personally, I disagree. I thought Gasly had a good race.
Really?
I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, at the end of the day, he was re-overtaking Albon for P6 when he got
Eventually, it came okay. That's why I say it's an okay race. I say it's okay because the first half of his race was actually absolutely abysmal. And the second half made up for it to become an okay race. Like, he should have been P6, in my opinion, the entire time, really. He went all the way down
I'm just
to last
comparing,
place, basically.
Obviously, this is a bad race to compare to, but like Bottas and Hamilton. Hamilton's world class. Bottas is a really good driver. That's the sort of driver you need.
Yeah.
You need someone who, when Hamilton's leading the race, you've got Bottas 3 seconds behind, not fighting with Toro Rossos, Renaults, McLarens for 8th place. That's not where a Red Bull should be if the other Red Bull is leading the Grand Prix. I know it's an unpredictable race, and you can be anywhere on the field, but I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Silverstone, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. So, like I said, I personally, I'd at least give him until the end of the season. I mean, it's not fair to judge after half the season.
I mean, I'm still, at the end of the day, I've still got a soft spot for Gasly, so I'd love to see him still just be there for the whole season, just to see it out. And I just desperately hope he picks up and just gets some good results that he needs just to.
You know what the problem is, though? Verstappen, believe it or not, is bringing himself into championship contention this year. If you actually look at the standings, he's not that far off, especially when you've got Hamilton scoring no points this race. Verstappen's picking up these opportunities, but then you've got to go, well, what if we had another driver picking up points as well? Who's
buffer.
finishing
It's
in
that
second.
buffer thing of like taking more points.
Red
off.
Bull could be ahead of Ferrari. They could be pushing Mercedes. You know what I mean? It's like, what if there was a driver like a Kvyat who's now finished in third? If he was finishing in P2 in a Red Bull?
Here's this problem. I think if you give Albon that seat, for example, it's
it can't
too
be
early to go.
It's too early.
It would be Kvyat.
It'd be Kvyat.
Obviously. Would Kvyat take it?
Obviously.
I think
Obviously
Kvyat
take
would.
it.
I think Kvyat's
think
the
he'd be too
logical.
quick to.
If he was to be replaced mid-season, Kvyat would be 100% the logical option because he's already been in the team as well.
If I'm Kvyat, I wouldn't rush for it.
You're a strange driver if you don't rush for a race-winning seat.
No, because the time you have to impress, especially when you've been someone that's already been there and has been sacked already, you're literally there until they find the next Verstappen. Like, you're not there because they believe in you. You're there as a placeholder. That's the way I see it.
Well, then he may as well get out of Toro Rosso altogether.
Yeah, with that logic, he may as well.
That logic, you may as well just find somewhere else.
In my opinion, if I'm Kvyat, I think he's looking to have a solid year this year. So then when silly season comes around, you can say, right, listen, I've been back for a year now. I've had a good year. if you want me, I'm here. Like, pick me up. I don't think
that's the
Kvyat's
problem
future
though.
stays
I don't
in
think
Red Bull.
any team will go for a Kvyat. They won't. Like,
I think
It's
someone
more
like
logical
Racing
for
Point
Kvyat to go to Red Bull first, show his talent there, then get the chopping block in the same way that you could say is Ricciardo getting himself out before things got messy. I feel like his career path would be better for him to go to Red Bull first, or back to Red Bull, and then find his way after that. Staying at Toro Rosso and just being like, nah, you know what, I have someone else in that seat. No one's going to turn down the race winning seat, because you've got to remember these Formula 1 drivers are quite narrow-minded in the sense that they just want one thing. They just want to win. And that's it, generally. So, I get what you mean, but...
Yeah, but you also might want a job. Like, just have a job. Like, if you get kicked from Red Bull, you're just left in limbo. It's like... I don't know.
Danny
If I'm
Kvyat.
Kvyat, I wouldn't rush into it, personally. I think you'll make the right decision.
I don't know.
Another thing I've just read as well. Again, on the topic of Williams, shithousing their way into points. I believe Hamilton has still not been penalised for his slow driving under the safety car. And he finished just in front of them. So... that could also still play a part. So it looks like
maybe
Williams could shithouse their way into a double
possible.
point finish.
I actually don't want them to, just because it's such a bad way to do it. Like, I'd rather them just... I don't know. So in the past, I would have been kind of happy for a team like that to just finesse their way into points. But for some reason, because they've been this horrendous and they still didn't make anything of this race, that was so crazy. I'd actually just be like, that's a bit kind of crap to look at, isn't it? They just somehow finesse their way into points by doing nothing.
Exactly.
But
rounding up the rest.
Bottas.
I mean, he was having a good race
he
until
was
he
actually
binned
having
it.
a pretty okay race until just that mega crash. Quite a hefty one into turn one. Same issue as Hamilton, dipping the tyre. Obviously, Hamilton got away with it just about. Bottas did not, and that was him out of the race. And I'm sure he'll be very annoyed with that because it was already a little bit of annoying qualifying for him yesterday when he got beat by Verstappen to that second place. So he needed to kind of have a good race, and yeah, it was going okay for him. And then, I don't know. It very much has been Bottas 1.0 as of late. Really.
I mean, that race was all right, but he wasn't.
He couldn't get past the racing point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was a bad moment, for sure. That was definitely a bit weird.
That was quite strange.
Then we go through basically all the DNFers. Hulkenberg, really unfortunate. I mean, those last two corners, the drag strip, the slippery thing, was basically going to be in the nightmares of many drivers for races to come now. Because Hulkenberg got caught out, Leclerc got caught out, Hamilton got caught out.
It was like genuine ice.
Yeah, but it was hilarious. But Hulkenberg, at one point, he was in a podium position. At one point, he was second.
Honestly, he could have actually picked up a podium.
Yeah, I mean, if
and that's the sad
Stroll
thing.
Was there, he could have definitely.
He was ahead of Sainz, for example.
Yeah.
You got to remember. But everyone jinxed him on Twitter. All of you lot that tweeted about it, all of you jinxed him. Congratulations.
I just saw the timeline saying it. I was like,
honestly, I've looked at Twitter and everyone was like, oh, everyone jinxed him. I'm like, why did you say it in the first place then? Just let it be. It was half race distance and that much had happened already, which was a shame. And then, it's literally just the people that fell shy of the, it's Hulkenberg and Leclerc who skated off the circuit. And both of them, fair play for both of them trying to get out of the wall. They both made a valiant effort, but...
shades of Kimi, USA 2015.
Yeah, it was.
But,
they were trying the hardest.
It was lining up for him, wasn't it, beautifully that race with the VSC.
It was.
He was making his way through, and you do think if it's got to the dry with that Ferrari, of course, Leclerc being very quick all weekend, you'd fancy him, but
I think that's why he was so upset.
I
think he knew.
Yeah.
That's why he was so upset because he knew he had a very good chance for it at maybe trying to go for the race win. I'm sure that's going to be maybe a tough one to get over because after the disappointment in qualifying, then coming back so well through the race, maybe a bit more of a mental reset for him to come back from that one. Like we said before, though, in those kind of conditions, you saw the reigning world champion make the same mistake. It can happen to any one of those drivers. It was just, not to be his day, unfortunately. Norris, we said, was a mechanical failure. Ricciardo, engine failure for him. Which at the time it was quite funny because there was this little I can't how do you describe it? Like a whizzing sound or something on the straight, and at the time I was like, what is that sound? It sounds like some sort of broken turbo, and then lo and behold it cuts to Ricciardo smoking. I was like, that's probably it.
That was that harked back to last year. That was eerie. I don't know when it just went Ricciardo engine failure. I was like, oh my god, this feels oddly familiar.
A lot of that, like the way Hamilton and Vettel's races were opposites to last year, and then like the whole, even just like the little bollard situation with Hamilton, how it
Repeating
originated
itself,
from last year, the exact same circuit, and how
Yeah.
it came back to haunt him the next year. There was so many little storyline bits throughout this entire race. Like it was really, really good to see.
Perez span last year as well, and Perez span again this year.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Very, very bizarre. And Perez literally, like, he was barely even racing, 10 laps?
Yeah.
If that. And he's usually a master at picking up the odd podium here and there.
Yeah, true.
He could have been a very handy one if you could have kept it on track more than 10 laps, because that was a massive shame to see him go out so early. But, oh my God. That was everything.
Well, yeah, that comes in.
You know what? Like, just to round this up, though, what we've got to remember is this track is dropping off the calendar. We've had 2 incredible years at Hockenheim, albeit, yes, because of a bit of rain. But even then,
That's
the
the
racing
hot
generally...
location.
Yeah, but even then, like, generally the racing in the dry is quite good. If you think back to 2016, I remember that being quite a good race.
Yeah,
Why are we losing this track? I don't get it.
It's a shame. It's a real shame.
It's a massive shame. And also the fact that we can never predict an F1 season ever again after... I mean, I did predict Verstappen to win, by the way. Just saying this now.
I nearly predicted,
Well, I predicted Hamilton for pole.
Vettel's actual race with my last question mark challenge. So I'll take
that was weird.
Some wizardry with that. Some wizardry. But
Listen,
But-
I picked Hamilton for pole, okay? So I got that right.
Yeah, you got that. I mean, that was not that difficult. But as I tweeted, and I think the best way to round this up is the fact that France, one of the worst races, and we thought, oh my God, this F1 season's dull. We've had 3 absolutely incredible races in a
It
row.
was such a dull season up until the end of France, and then we've had 3 banging races. It's made up for it for sure. Like, it's been so great to see. This one though, I will be soaking in this kind of like glow from that race now for a few hours now today, because it was just so memorable. Like, I might even watch the highlights back just because like it was such a good race.
Yeah, fully.
Like,
The
just,
highlights won't do it justice though.
yeah, I
There's
might
so
need to
many
watch the
little things.
full race back later or something like that.
I'm just going to put this out there. We apologise in advance, though, that the next race is going to go back to normal because
We're going to fucking watch it.
Therefore,
Yeah.
it's not going to be a
That's
cracker.
a good segue then, because the reason why we've done this race reaction as a sort of podcast reaction, it will be going on audio as well, and that's why on the screen it looks like a podcast rather than an instant race reaction, because we are going to the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're going to Budapest actually for a lot of days from Tuesday of this week, so there won't be an actual normal podcast that there usually is in the week. Next week for Hungary, next week for Germany, and there won't be a reaction podcast video for Hungary probably. There hopefully might be a podcast from Hungary that you see uploaded later on in the week that we record in location, maybe, but no promises there. So there will be a little bit of wait for the next video from us 3 as a unit, as the Pit Lane podcast. So that's why this video has been like this. But also, to be fair, that race was so banging, we kind of need to be a bit of a longer reaction, because a 15-minute instant, like, you know, bammy just wouldn't have done that justice, because that was literally one of the best races I've seen in such a long while. That was such a banger.
What do you reckon that beats? Like, when was the last race that would have beat that? And I've got a list of a friend of ours who.
Germany last year, maybe.
Which race? Sorry.
Germany last year. I mean, that was.
No, this
arguably
one
the
was
race of
hands
last
down.
season.
There was
This definitely trounced Germany last year. Germany last year was
way
exciting,
better than
but
last
this
year.
was like,
And even last year was brilliant. Like, that's what's wild about how good this race was, with the fact that it trounced Germany last year, and Germany last year was the race of the season, which shocks me. But
Yeah.
I can't remember the last race that would have beat that.
that was very, very exciting. It was very, very exciting. You know what? We're going to leave it there. I think we're going to just otherwise just try and find other words to say how great it was. So we'll leave the reaction here. If you guys did enjoy this video, then be sure to hit that like button. Let us know what you thought in the comments below of that race for yourselves. If you aren't new around here, do subscribe to this channel for the podcast. Obviously, like I said, there might be a little bit of a break until the next video, but it'll come eventually. Hopefully, Hungary. Hopefully, we don't jinx Hungary too much, but knowing us, we probably have. Probably will do. If you want to check out Cal and Tom, their Twitter handles have been on screen the entire time. As I said, this is a kind of a race reaction and a podcast, so you can find this on audio, and you probably hopefully have already found it on audio if you're listening to it on a device. So hello on Spotify, SoundCloud, or iTunes. If you do want to support us directly, you can do on Patreon, or you can also check out GT Omega and use the code PitLaneF1 at checkout, and that'll directly kick back to us. But that's been this one for the German GP in 2019. What a race! What a race! We'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.